Every choice you have made has led you to this moment.
Pod racing was one of the greatest things that the Phantom Menace gave us. It spawned the legendary game Star Wars Racer, where I spent countless hours trying to beat and unlock pods. Now with the recent trailer of Star Wars Galactic Racer, this unveiled that we would once again be able to take to Tatooine at hundreds of miles an hour in our favorite pod racer. I will add real quick though, at the time of this recording, I am somewhat skeptical about this portion of the game. It looks like it could just be one small game mode on the side rather than being a larger portion of the content. With that being said, pod racing was an excellent add to the expansive Star Wars universe that yields great potential. With that great deal of nostalgia racking through my brain, I thought it would be a fun idea to go back and look at all the pod racers that participated in the Boonta Eve back in the Phantom Menace. I will be ranking each pod not based on their feats or stats, but by how I personally feel about how they should be ranked. Their pilot will also factor into their placement as well. Well, without further ado, let's jump right in and rank these 18 pod racers. Alright, starting us off, and forgive me for any of these names that I completely butcher, we have Alder Beto. With as many racers crashed during the Boonta Eve, he was not one of them. In fact, he managed to finish in 4th place. Looking at the pod, it has an interesting concept, and I like the paint job, but overall the shape of the pod looks kinda clunky. For that reason, I'm going to have to put him in the C tier. Moving on to our next racer, who is Rats Terrell. I do not feel like I should have to say much about this legend, but I'm going to do so anyway. This alien creature bravely raced like a hero and unfortunately met an untimely end to his short but historic life. Rats Terrell had a fatal crash and did not finish the race. On top of that, his pod design was pretty cool with how the engines presented themselves. The brave soul is easily an S tier, and I will not elaborate any further than I already have. Next, we take a look at an alien who needs no introduction, and that is Sebulba, who famously crashed in the last lap. What a well-designed pod racer. The color and the design are striking, not to mention the iconic sound that radiates from the engine during the race. I think we can all easily imagine that sound in our minds. The engines that are attached to the pod are a cool fanned-out design. I think this one is pretty predictable in saying that it's an S tier. The following racer, who as a kid I affectionately referred to as Cabbagehead, which later learned name was Mahonic, crashed in the very first lap of the race, meeting an untimely end at the hand of Sebulba. Looking at his pod, I like the color that is used in the green, but after that, there's not much that speaks to me. I don't hate it, but I don't really love it either. He shall be relegated to the C tier. Dud Bolt. So close, but yet so far, as the racer crashed in the 3rd lap of the Boonta Eve. Taking a closer gander at his pod, I've always been a fan of this one. I like the colors that are presented and the overall design. To me, the front of the engines always resembled claws, and I thought that was really cool as a kid. And I wouldn't really want to disappoint Kid Me. So Deadbolt, you find yourself in the A tier. Up next is the Chosen One, who claimed glory and 1st place in the Boonta Eve. The kid saved the day and essentially won his own freedom. I absolutely love this pod. I had the toy version of this one as a kid, so it does hold a special place in my heart. And even if I didn't, this pod is still one of the most beautiful racers. I love the blue and silver paint job as well as the overall design of the engines. So yeah, Anakin goes in the S tier. Moving on to our next racer, who is Clegg Holdfast, who crashed in the 2nd lap of the race. Overall, his pod is pretty ho-hum to me along with his character. Nothing about him or his pod is memorable in any sort of way. The design of his pod is pretty basic, that is matched with a bland burgundy color on the front of the engines. Clegg, walk yourself down to the D tier where you belong. Tough act to follow, I know, but we have Eb Encott, who ended up finishing 4th in the Boonta Eve race. Funny looking guy, but I'm not judging him on his looks. In general, there was not much to remember about him in the race, and most of my interaction comes with him in the Game Boy Color game. I do have to say, I really do like the design of this racer. The light blue color with the brownish accents work well, and the design of the engines are really cool. I've always enjoyed this one as a kid. Eb finds himself in the A tier. Up next is our super lanky alien Gazgano. This was the racer that finished 2nd in the Boonta Eve. Props to Gizgano, you earned that one. Yet another racer sporting a green paint job on his racer. Overall, an interesting sight to behold, with his engines that bear an easily memorable design. Not too shabby, so that will land him in B tier. Up next, we have Bull's Roar, who finished in 6th. Looking at his racer, it's pretty basic. Essentially 2 balls strung together with a very faded looking paint job. On top of that, his pilot kind of weirds me out. He'll be going to the C tier. Moving on to Team Toe, I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Thank you, George. This racer got shot down in the 2nd lap of the race. Looking at the pod, I do like the cockpit area of his racer, but the engine is where he starts to lose me. They're really clunky looking and just don't do it for me. Team Toe, you're going to the C tier. Elon Mack is a racer that probably does need an introduction. Though not really a memorable race, he did manage to finish in 5th place. Playing this game on the Game Boy Color graphics were not the greatest growing up, so the best I could decipher from him and his racer sort of resembled that of a snail shell, so I affectionately referred to him as the Snail Pod. Till this day, I still like the unique design and the color scheme, so Elon goes to the B tier. Next up is Mars Go, who crashed in the 2nd lap and rather fantastically at that. If you know, you know, and what came next was rather glorious. Memes aside, I actually really like the design of this racer. The engines are bold and I like the basic metallic color that it sports. This thing looks like it would be a beast, but sadly we'll never know its full potential. Mars, we honor you and your racer in the S tier. Arc Bumpy Ruser. Not sure if that was the name of the racer or an STD when I first read that. This racer made it pretty far, but crashed in the 3rd lap. His racer has an interesting design, I will say that. I like the reddish paint job, and it looks like each engine resembles that of an engine block. A cool thought, but I'm not really down with it all coming together. Arc will kindly find himself in the C tier. We now move on to Nivaki, who did not finish the race that we know of. This guy is also pretty freaky looking, like something you would see out of one of the Underworld movies. Despite his freakish complexion, his pod makes a positive impression. I love the blue paint job that the racer sports. It is also unique in the fact that the cockpit sits at the front of the engines, unlike the other racers. It has a sleek design and is overall appealing. Neva, you've earned yourself a spot in the A tier. Continuing with shady looking aliens, this dude looks like he could be a Sith Lord that rivals Darth Jar Jar in Juan's Sondage. Juan thankfully crashed in the 3rd lap and was no longer an assault on my eyes. Looking at his pod, the cockpit is actually pretty cool with a wing-like structure on the sides. Where he loses me is the design of the engines. Not really much going on there, so he goes in C tier purgatory. The man, the myth, the legend, Odie Mandrell, who did not finish this race. His engine comically blew up in the Three Stooges act by his robot pit crew. Who knows what potential we lost in seeing his racer meet an untimely and unfortunate end. With that being said, I like the design of the racer. Yet again, the racer sports a reddish paint job with bold engines and a pretty cool cockpit. I'm a man of simple tastes, and this meets that criteria. Odie and his pit crew earned their spot in the B tier. Last and certainly least is Ben Quadranero, whose power coupling comically exploded before he even got off the starting line. I will say that I have a personal vendetta against Quadranero, as in the game, his handling was absolutely horrendous, and it was like piling a rock as I constantly slammed into the walls no matter how hard I pressed the directional buttons. His greedy need for speed had him set up a dumb design, and he got what he deserved. Ben, I would have put you in a lower tier than D if I'd remembered to make one. With all that being said, where did your favorite pod racer land? Let me know if you agree, or where I went wrong with these completely made up and arbitrary rankings. Anyway, if you could drop a like and subscribe to join the syndicate. Until next time, thank you for watching.